Hello again and welcome to another edition of Shed Talk, my weekly magazine video series looking at the keeping, breeding and showing of cage birds with a special focus on the exhibition style budgerigar. Well, it's Easter, or at least it's Easter when this video is due to go out, and Easter can only mean chicks and eggs. So do we have any of those in the shed to show you this week? And in fact, that's going to be the main focus of this week. Will be a full breeding update, first of all from in here, the budgerigar shed, or the breeding shed for the budgerigars, and then we'll pop outside and we'll have a look at the Fifes outside in the Finch and Fife shed and see how the Fifes are getting on as well. There are also some questions that came in via the YouTube comments, so we will do another Shed Talk question time in this episode. Don't forget, if you do have any questions or anything you'd like to see in future episodes, do drop them in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Well, the other thing, of course, is just as this episode is due to go out, we'll be into the Oxford 1910 Barhead and Young Bird competition. So what I will do is, if I get a chance right at the end, is we'll get all 4 birds out and we'll have a quick look at the 4 birds that I plan to take to that particular competition. As always, if you enjoy the video, don't forget to hit the like button. As I've mentioned earlier, do of course comment, whether that's for any questions or any other comments on the show in general. And if you haven't yet subscribed, then of course please do subscribe to the channel. All the subscriptions do help the channel to grow and promote the hobby slightly more widely. And if you want early notifications of when I post the videos, rather than waiting for me to put them on to any of the social media channels, then of course hit the bell icon. So what we'll do now is we'll have a run round, as always, or as now has become quite customary, we'll run round looking at them in their family groups. So let's start the episode then by looking at how the breeding's going here in the budgerigar breeding room. And as we normally do, we'll look at these in the new family groups that I've sort of set up. And the first of those families is the grey family. And indeed, that's the family that we've got most of the pairs down from. So there are in fact 3 pairs that represent the grey family. The first of those is the pair that's in cage 8. And this particular pair has been down almost right from, I think actually right from the very beginning of this breeding season. It's a cinnamon grey cockbird split to a dark green hen, and in fact this cockbird is the father of the 2 other birds that we're going to look at when we consider the pairs we got down from the grey family. And because this pair has been down since the very beginning, of course, these are now on their 3rd and final round of eggs. So in the first round, they laid 7 eggs. All of them were clear, and I've said it, and I continue to say it almost every time we cover this particular pair. The hen went straight in the nest box and didn't give the cockbird a chance to tread her, so that was the reason for those clear eggs. In the second round, we were much more successful in that they laid again a total of 7 eggs, of which 2 were full. Both those hatched, both those have now been weaned, and their chicks are in the nappy flight. So we're pleased we've got something off this grey pair. They're now, like I say, they're now on their 3rd round. In the 3rd round, they laid a total of 6 eggs. 2 of those got broken in the flight. I don't know whether it's the hen knows that they're clear, because they were both clear, and was just, you know, destroying them. So I've removed those 2 eggs. There are 4 eggs left in there. All 4 of those are also clear. So what I will do is at some stage in the very near future, or at some stage, I will remove the cockbird from this. What I'm thinking about doing though is fostering the final 2 eggs that are currently in cage 9, and we'll cover that. That's part of the blue family, and I'll cover that when we come on to that, my reasoning behind fostering the 2 final eggs, or the 2 final chicks from that particular pair into here. The hen of course is in condition to start feeding, or the hen in this cage is in condition to start feeding, so she should have produced crop milk and so on, so she shouldn't have a problem feeding those two youngsters. And we know that when she does got youngsters, that she feeds them really well, because she's weaned the only two that have hatched from her second round. So that is the first of the grey pairs. Let's move on to the other two pairs in the grey family. So moving on to the second pair that we've got down from the grey family. I think at the beginning I said we had 3 pairs from the grey family. I was forgetting one very important pair, and so there are actually 4 pairs from the grey family that we're going to that we still got in the breeding cages. So we will have a look at that, all 4 of those pairs. So the second pair is a new pair that we have just put down. They've been in the breeding cage for about a week, and they're in the breeding cage that's directly behind me. We've got a young grey-green cinnamon cockbird, and like I say, that's the son of the pair that we've just looked, or the cockbird in the pair that we've just looked at. And we've crossed that to what I think is actually a violet sky blue hen. And she's also a cinnamon. So they've been in the cage for about a week. The hen has shown no sign. When we first put her in there, she did chew at the entrance to the nest box, but of course the nest box was closed. Since I've opened it, she's actually shown no interest so far in the nest box. So we're going to give her a bit longer. Both of these birds are last year bred birds. The hen is definitely in condition. So touch wood, she'll get the hang and she'll start to go in there within the next week or week and a bit. So I'm going to persevere with this pair a little bit for at least 2, if not 3 weeks, to see how they do get on. So that's the second of the grey family pairs. The third pair that we're going to look at is in the cage that's directly below that cage, and it's another pair that we've had down for a little while, and the pair that I forgot about. So this pair is a opaline cinnamon sky blue cockbird, although it actually forms part of the grey family, and it's got a very common ancestor. So that the grandfather of this bird is the father of the bird that we first looked at, so the first cinnamon grey opaline. So that bird is mine, and we've crossed this to the Bob McCabe outcross that we got, which is a cobalt. Nope, sorry. It's a light green opaline hen. And these have now so once again, these have been in the cage for some considerable time. They're on their 3rd round. First round, we'll remember all of the eggs were clear. In the second round, we had 1 full egg, although they actually raised 2 because we fostered a chick out from cage 9. And that bird was weaned and is now in the nappy flight. And we will have a look at that one right at the end, because it's one of the birds that I'm going to take to the barhead competition. And they're now on their 3rd round. They again laid 5 eggs, of which only 1 again has been full. That egg has hatched, and the chick actually is due to leave the nest box very, very shortly. And I'm going to take the cockbird out here and let the hen raise the chick on her own, because I don't want this pair going for a 3rd round. What I'd like to try and do is give this hen a rest and perhaps give her 1 more go. I doubt whether it will be at the end of this breeding season, but again at the beginning of the next breeding season, so in September, October time. That's my plan for that pair. So we will have got 2 chicks off of that particular pair and of the Bob McCabe outcross, one of which is actually looking quite reasonable. So that's the 3rd pair from the grey family. Let's now look at the 4th pair from the grey family. So we'll move on to the 4th pair in the grey family that we're going to look at. I'm really surprised, it's really, really quiet in here. None of the birds are all sleeping, so all of the budgerigars seem to be taking a nap at the moment. Normally once I start filming, you'll probably know Normally once I start filming, you know, the noise level rises in here horrendously, but nope, they're all having a nap. So that's, I shall try and get this little bit filmed before they all wake up and decide to start yelling again. Anyway, so like I say, cage, the fourth pair in the grey family. This pair has laid, and again it's the brother of the second pair that we looked at. So it's another cinnamon grey green cockbird, and we've crossed it again to a dark green. Unfortunately, she laid 4 eggs, so she's quite an oldish hen. She laid 4 eggs and then stopped laying, and all of those eggs are clear. Now, I think this hen is just a little bit too old to breed. So I think I've decided anyway that I will not let this pair go for another round. So I'm going to split them. So I'm going to take the cockbird away. At the moment I'm gradually removing the eggs because they've reached the stage where they should have hatched. So I'm gradually removing the eggs, and what I will do is I'm going to take the cockbird away, and I will give the hen a rest for a couple of days, as always, in the breeding cage, and then I'll pop her into the stock cage and she can see out the rest of her days in the flight. So, and then I will have to try and find this cockbird another hen. I've tried him with a few so far, but without any success at the moment. But we will keep persevering with this cockbird because I do quite like both the two brothers. I actually quite like and would like to get some chicks off them, if not this breeding season. They're only young birds, so I will get another couple of seasons out of them anyway. So that's the final pair in the grey family. What we will do now is we'll have a quick look at the most successful of all of the families and all of the pairs that we've got. The cobalt in cage 9 from the blue family. So the only pair we've got left down from the blue family is the pair that's been down right from the very beginning and is in cage 9. And this is a cobalt cockbird crossed to a cinnamon light green hen, and the cobalt cockbird is a bird that I actually do quite like. And as I say, this pair have been really successful for me. They, you know, in terms of the total number of chicks produced, they must have produced well over 50% of the ones that I've produced this breeding season. In the first round then, they laid 7 eggs. All of those eggs were full, and they all hatched, but unfortunately one was squashed in the nest box and the other one died very short, within a couple of days. I think it was just after I'd rung it. Anyway, but they managed to raise 5. I fostered one of the chicks out, but they did manage to raise 5 of the youngsters, and those have all weaned, and they're all in the breeding, the nappy flight as we speak. And in the second round, again, they laid 5 eggs. All eggs were full, and they managed to wean 4 of those chicks. In fact, one of those is a dark green bird that looks promising. So, you know, looks like it might have a little bit of potential. So it will give us something to carry on with next breeding season. And this pair is now on their third round. You may remember I was actually going to try and split them, but they started laying before I had a chance to. So I thought I'd let them carry on. They're both good feeders, so it's not like the hen's feeding on her own. The cockbird's very good feeder as well. Very attentive parents. They laid again a total of 5 eggs, of which again all of them were full. So this cockbird fertility out of this pair has been brilliant. All of them were full. The first 3 have hatched, and I think I said right at the beginning when we were talking about the first of the grey pairs where they've got clear eggs, my plan is either to foster the last 2 eggs out or to wait until they hatch and foster the chicks out. Not really sure which of those I'm going to do at the moment, but I need to make a decision very shortly because those 2 eggs are likely to hatch very shortly, as I say. So again, another successful round off of this pair. My intention is that the moment I've fostered those last 2 eggs out, I will probably remove the cockbird from this pair and just let the hen bring the last 2 chicks, or the last 3 chicks on her own, rather than risk these going for a 4th round, because I really don't want to overdo this hen or the cockbird, in fact, but mainly the hen, by letting them go for a 4th round. So that's the blue family. Like I say, really successful pair here, as ultimately made my breeding season. So as I speak, the noise level's just starting to rise again. I think one of the cockbirds chasing a hen around, and it started all the other cockbirds off. So that's the blue family. The last family we need to look at is in cage 1, and that's what I think I dubbed in the last episode the green family. So the last pair that we're going to look at is the pair that's actually in the cage directly behind me. You can see them now, and that is a normal light green cockbird crossed to an opaline light green hen. I really, after I paired these up and I looked at them, I really like this pairing, and I'm hoping I'm going to get something off them. But at the moment, they've been in the breeding cage once again for about a week. Nest box been open for about 4 or 5 days, but so far hen is showing no sign of going in there. She is in condition, and so is the cockbird. So I am hoping, like with the previous of the new pairs, that give them about another week, this hen will start showing some interest in the nest box, and then the cockbird will start showing some interest in the hen, and touch wood, you know, that we will get something off of this particular pair. So that's the last of the pairs from the budgerigars, and the first pair for this breeding season from this, what we now dubbed as the green family. So, as I say, that's it from in here. You can probably tell the noise level has really risen. I spoke too soon, didn't I? So the last of the pairs that we're going to look at from here. What we'll do now is we'll nip out to the finch and Fife light, and we'll have a look at the Fifes from breeding to bench. Well, it really is all go on the Fife front. At the end of the last episode, you'll remember that I was going to pull the divider away and put the nest pan in the cage. Well, that all happened within a day of me putting the nest pan in the breeding cage. The hen started to build up, so she built a nice little nest. We can have a look at it here. So that was within the first sort of, I suppose, 24-48 hours of that happening. She then very quickly, you know, within a day or 2 days after she had built the nest, she laid her first egg, and she's now actually laid 2 eggs. I've removed the eggs as they've been laid and replaced them with a dummy egg. So there was one day where she was actually sat tight on the eggs on the first day. Since then, whenever I've come in, the eggs have been warm whenever I've taken them out, but she's never, I've not noticed her sitting particularly tightly on the nest. I don't know if that's common for the Fifes. You know, she may, I don't know, sometimes a budgerigar won't sit for the first egg or the first couple of eggs. I don't know whether that's the same for the Fifes. My only concern with all of this is that I'm not convinced, and it's just me, and obviously those of you that are Fife breeders will be able to let me know, but I'm not convinced that the cockbird is in brilliant condition. I've not seen the hen squatting for him, and I've not seen him tread her, and given how quickly she laid the first egg, being a bit of a pessimist here, I'm not expecting these eggs to be full, or certainly not the first couple to be full anyway. but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. You know, I will. You know, whilst I'm saying I'm not expecting it, I'm hopeful. You know, I am hopeful that just maybe we'll get, you know, 1 or 2 of these eggs after all. I did get some a little bit of advice. It's turned quite cold over the last couple of days here, and I'm really grateful to Graham Davies for I messaged him very quickly about whether there was anything else I had to do after I'd taken the eggs out, and he spoke about not to let them get too cold, particularly with the way the weather had turned over the last few days. But fortunately, and I've said it before, this particular shed is got a heater in it that comes on should the temperature drop below 10, and I'm reliably informed that that should be fine. So I'm waiting for her to lay her 4th egg, and then I will reset the eggs back into the nest. I've listened a little bit to various people on the YouTube channels, particularly the Canary Room, and I hear them saying, you know, you can tell it's the last egg they're going to lay because it's a brighter blue. I'll have a look, see if I can identify this slightly brighter blue egg, and if I do, then fine. If I don't know, I'm going to reset them after she laid her 4th egg. So, like I say, all go here with the Fifes. You know, the cockbird continued to feed the hen, but like I've always said, he's not singing particularly loudly, and he's certainly not. I've not seen him tread her. Oh, there was one other thing. I did also get a comment about the fact that I was only using plain canary and why I wasn't using a general canary mix. I've now rectified that. So they will now be getting a conditioning seed, couple of small finger draws of conditioning seed. They will be getting a mixed canary seed, and then they will be getting soft food, and they're getting those every day. The lighting in here is now on for the full 13 hours. So like I say, we're just hopeful now that we will get some full eggs, some chicks, and something that I can get out to the bench. So that's all we've got from in here in the Finch and Fife shed, and that's all we've got time for in Fifes from breeding to bench. Well, it's all getting really exciting out there with the Fifes, isn't it? And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that breeding of those develops over the next coming few days and weeks. You know, are the eggs going to be full? If they are, what do we do with how are the chicks going to develop, and so on and so forth. So yeah, looking forward to that new challenge out there in the Finch and Fife shed. Anyway, I think now what we'll do is talk a little bit about Shed Talk question time. I did have a number of questions come in on the comments page, and I thought I'd run through those. I think there were 3 in total, and I think I would run through those. As I always say though, what I'm doing here when I'm answering these questions is talking about my, you know, relatively to a lot of people's experience in keeping birds, and so it's what I do in my shed, and it's the experience that I've had and what works for me. Do of course, you know, listen to what I'm saying, but of course also, you know, listen to other experienced breeders. Take your own advice, take their advice as well, and you know, look what is out there on the internet. And of course, don't forget, you know, to read books, magazines and articles on the various subjects, and then make up your own mind and do what works for you in your shed. It's your shed, your birds, you know, take on all that advice, but ultimately it's down to you to do what you think is best for your birds, which is what I will talk about now. Well, the first of the questions was, have I ever experienced French Moult, and how did I go about dealing with it? Well, the first thing I'd say is I personally don't think I've had a really bad bout of French Moult since I've been keeping budgerigars seriously. Now, for those of you that may be sort of going, well, what's French Moult? So generally, I think the general view is that French Moult is caused through a virus, and it's where birds will drop flight feathers and tail feathers, and in some cases even more feathers than that. So and you'll end up with a whole load of birds, flightless wonders, running around the bottom of the cage. So now I've never had an experience of there being a major outbreak of French Moult in my shed, as I say. I do, however, occasionally have birds who will drop flights and who will drop tails, and they may not grow back again. So particularly tails, I sometimes have birds. In fact, I've got one in the breeding cage at the moment who had a tail when it, as a chick, went through that first molt, dropped its tail feathers, and they've never grown back again. But it's only one or two birds. I've never had loads and loads of birds in a particular season where that's happened. I do find that I will occasionally get chicks that during the weaning process will drop flights and will drop tails, but they will grow back again. So now my guess, and it's just a guess, is that the weaning process is quite stressful, and they may become more acceptable to viruses at that time. So it might be that they are more susceptible to whatever virus it is that causes French Moult, but after they've got through the weaning process and they're stronger, they're less susceptible to it, and therefore they will regrow their flights and their tails. So I suppose the answer is that no, I've not experienced a major outbreak of French Moult in my shed, touch wood. We'll find now that I'll be in the next episode, I'll be talking about a major outbreak of French Moult. So I've not had it in my shed, and although I do occasionally have birds that drop flights and tail feathers. So the second question that came in was about trimming beaks and claws, and do I do it and how do I go about it? Well, again, this is something that I've not done and I don't think I've ever needed to do. I've never really had a problem with particularly the budgerigars having beaks that become overgrown, or their claws that become overgrown. I have had it with some of the finches, and I have needed to trim I think it was the spice finch in particular, whose claws grew really long, and I did have to trim those back a little bit. But I've never had a problem with the budgerigars. And I suppose I put that down to I use various size and various different shape of perches. I don't use natural perches in there. I wish I could have the time to go out and get some, but I don't use natural perches. But I do have different size perches and different size and different shape perches in both the flights. So I think that helps keep the claws in help wear them down so they don't become overgrown. The other thing I do is I do put wood in the certainly in the main flight, and other pieces for the birds to chew on. So bits of wood, and the other thing I do use is I use the hard stem from cabbage and from broccoli and from cauliflower, those sort of things. So the hard stem, uncooked stem at the bottom of that, and I find the birds will regularly chew on those. They chew it right down until it's almost gone. In fact, I just drop it in the bottom of the cage and let them chew on that, and I think that also helps keep the beak in trim. So haven't had to trim beaks, and so far haven't had to trim claws. I would say I've never had a problem with hens piercing the eggs with their claws in the nest boxes, so I'm guessing that their claws aren't too long. So like I say, I've never had that particular problem. So let's have a look at the final question that came in. Well, I have left this question till last because it's probably the most tricky one and possibly the most controversial one, and it was around the use of grip and cuttlefish. I say again, this is just what I do in my shed, and I find it works for me. But there will be other breeders out there, experienced breeders, who will say something completely different, and there will be other breeders out there, very experienced breeders, who will do something very similar to me. So, but for me in my shed, what do I do? So first of all, grit. I have always used grit in all of the cages, so both breeding cages and all of the flights. The birds always have access to oyster shell grit, is the main one that I will use in there. I find that in the breeding cages, the birds get through it much more quickly than they do in the flight, and both hens and cockbirds will take the grit in the grit feeders in the breeding cages, like I say, I find they go through it faster than they do in the flight cages, and only occasionally will I need to top that up between the general clean-up and emptying and refreshing that I do on a weekly basis in the flights and in the breeding cages. So, like I say, always got access to grit. I mix the grit, however, with some charcoal, so there's a charcoal grit mix 50-50 that's in both the breeding cages and in the flight cages, so they're getting charcoal and grit together. And I've never had a problem with, I know some people say it can get caught in the in the throat of the bird and all that sort of stuff. Never had a problem with that, touch wood, up to now. So yes, I do use grit. Cuttlefish, in the past I've used cuttlefish. If I get given cuttlefish, I will put it in there. I don't think, so the question linked to the cuttlefish is, do I think it's a good source of calcium for the birds? I don't think personally that they get that much calcium out of it. I think they tend to just grind it down and leave it all over the floor. If I do get given cuttlefish bone, or occasionally, I will put it in there, and I do find they take to it very quickly, and it will be gone within a couple of weeks. So I have no doubt that they enjoy chewing on the cuttlefish, and it gives them, I suppose, a little bit of enjoyment and fulfillment in the flight cages. But I don't think it's a reasonable source of calcium for the birds. Which is why I don't put it in the cages all the time. I know lots of breeders will have it always in the cages. What I do though is, in terms of calcium, and I've mentioned this when I've done my soft food mix videos, is I use an animal grade calcium powder that I mix in with their soft food, so that they will get an additional calcium via the soft food, particularly in the breeding cages where they get it every day. So that's my main way of getting calcium into the birds. I have used a supplement of calcium in the water. I suppose my biggest bugbear about using any supplement in the water is that I try to change the water every day, and that means that I find that I'm wasting the vast majority of it. So I no longer use supplements in the water, calcium supplements in the water. So I do use Aviform Gold in the water every other day. So and again, I do think I'm wasting more than I'm using, more than they're taking in, but that's just the way it is. So I don't use a calcium supplement in water. I use a animal grade calcium powder in the soft food. So that was all of the questions that come in. There were another couple of suggestions for future videos, and perhaps we'll talk a little bit about those right at the very end of the video and see what you think about them, whether you think they would be interesting for episodes. So there we go. That's Shed Talk question time. Well, unfortunately this episode's gone far longer than I anticipated, and we just didn't have time to grab the barheads and young birds out of the nappy flight to look at them prior to the Oxford 1910 competition. I promise you in the next episode we will get a chance to look at those, because I've got to get them out for the show anyway, so I will get some pictures of them either at the show or before I take them, and they will be included in, I hope, the next episode, along with some highlights from that particular competition. As always though, if you do enjoy the series, then do hit the like button. Do of course continue to comment. If you haven't yet subscribed, do subscribe to the channel. But most importantly, do stay safe and enjoy your birds.